But it wasn't until the betrothal ball, as he watched Gilbert slouch onto the dance floor with Eleanor, as he watched Gilbert touch her, hold her, brush against her skirts, that he realized his desire was not the vague thirst of a man too long parched. This was not ordinary lust, tempted into existence by very ordinary circumstances. This was instinct. This was indelible need. This was a craving that was scouring him raw. And it was an absurdity on every level. He'd been the one to arrange the marriage. He'd been the one to select Eleanor for Gilbert. He was the one who was twice Eleanor's age and too old, too bitter, too depraved to be allowed near anyone so innocent and pure. He could not have her, and she would never want him. And why would she? Gilbert was a monster, but at least he had his youth. Jarrell had already spent his. Still, whenever Gilbert touched Eleanor, displeasure gouged Jarrell somewhere deep in his chest. Whenever she smiled or laughed or turned her head over her shoulder so that the button of her nose and the point of her chin was silhouetted with light, something much more pleasant spiked his blood. And when she danced, when her neck arched, when she leaned forward and her pert breasts pressed against the low neckline of her gown, his fingers curled into fists and his entire being vibrated with a hunger so fierce that it threatened to tear him and the world around him to shreds. Had he still been young, had Eleanor been born 20 years earlier, and they met when he was still himself, unravaged by time and grief and despair. But no, he had to meet her now. When he was 40 to her 20, when she was promised to another, when his desperate misery had become such a knotted tangle around his being that pulling a single thread loose would spell disaster. Disaster! Because if he snapped even a lone cord of his restraint, he would do what his Saxon ancestors had done when they'd finally breached the wilds of Dumnonia. He would ransack, despoil, and plunder. He would hoist the Lady Eleanor Vane with her fashionable taffeta round gown over his shoulder and carry her off to be his wife, and there'd be no further angst over the matter. He saw, he wanted, he'd take.